Hey Kings, welcome back to the Augustus Maximus channel. Today we'll be doing the Little Entente in Hearts of Iron 4, or the French Alliance, or the French Entente, or whatever you want to call it. Essentially it's the alliance between France and Czechoslovakia, and Romania and Yugoslavia. It's one of the alternate paths for democratic France if you don't want to do the alliance with Britain or the Stresa front with Italy. And this is one of the fan favorites. Essentially, it allows France to do its own thing completely independently of other great powers, while also having the potential of being a quite powerful alliance itself. Because if you look at the individual industrial powers of Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Romania, as well as their manpower capabilities, their armies, and everything like that, they aren't very strong individually. The best is probably Romania, which roughly equates to the strength of someone like Spain, sort of a middle power, not quite great power status, but not very weak. Yugoslavia definitely being the weakest link, and Czechoslovakia being somewhere roughly in the middle, with really a decent army in its own right. But combined, these individual nations and their capabilities roughly equate to someone like Italy or France. And with that being said, it has a lot of power. It has a lot of potential power, and so that's why I have to look at this from the point of view of basically the French player. They would basically want to stick to their own guns. They don't really want to do any fancy stuff with any other great powers. So from a historical perspective, this is obviously very much sort of a projection of power, and it makes sense from a historical point of view for France to be doing something like this. Is obviously it's just in keeping with the diplomacy of the interwar years before the 1930s and during the early 1930s, definitely. So it's from a historical point of view, it makes more sense maybe than the Stresa front in like 1938. But from the practical point of view, in the game, we'll have to see how it actually holds up. Because from my past experiences before La Résistance, I haven't actually played this path in La Résistance yet. But before La Résistance, this path was relatively okay. It wasn't it wasn't all that powerful as other people made it out to be, at least in my experience, because it took a long time to divide the individual, the Romania, Yugoslavia, and Czechoslovakia individually into the Little Entente, and them being sort of mediocre powers, not mediocre powers, but like middle powers, with some of them obviously being better than the other powers, and them not necessarily supporting each other that much. As a singular nation would obviously be supporting its individual fronts. Basically, it meant that they weren't all that strong. Now, they really weren't all that strong, even in combination. But now, with La Résistance, I'm sort of hoping that the AI maybe has been a little bit revamped, and maybe the Little Entente is actually going to be a little bit better, even though technically it now takes longer to invite all of them, because you have to do an additional focus to really get the full power for the Little Entente, to have sort of this military investment to the Little Entente. You get to give them some military factories, and I think that might be the thing that tips the scale towards the Little Entente actually being very decent, because, well, it just gives them a better military, right? Their military output is increased, and for someone like Yugoslavia, who really doesn't have that many military factories and really doesn't have that great of an army, those additional like 2 or 3 military factories can really be the decisive point. So even though it takes an additional focus compared to something like the Streets of Front, which was really powerful in its own right and actually very quick to achieve, it also takes like the time equivalent of roughly 5 focuses, basically 5 times 70 focus, as compared to just going with Britain and just waiting until 1939 until Germany does the Danziger War. So really, it's quite a big investment if you think about it. It's roughly like an entire year's investment into just a Little Entente and getting it on the road, getting the ball rolling, getting these guys into the faction. So my entire battle plan here is, or at least a battle hope, is for the Little Entente to last a little over a year. if they manage to hold back the Germans and Italians for like a year and a month, a year and a week, a year and a day, the investment is going to pay off. And ultimately this alliance is going to be a success. Because from the Streisand video, as you saw, the Italians were actually really good at holding back the Germans. Now, as for me, I'll just be doing the regular tactic of France, which is defending against the Italians in Africa, defending against the Italians in the, on the Italian border, and defending against the Italians in the individual islands, on the Mediterranean. Also be defending against the Germans on the Maginot Line, also defending against the Germans on the Belgian front, because that's where there are inevitably going to be some conflicts when the Germans are going to be finishing their rough ride around the Maginot through the Low Countries. So, I don't imagine that the Little Entente faction is going to be of great use here as opposed to the Italian one. The Italian faction, obviously, the Streisand. And I really, really hope that the Little Entente actually manages to hold off the Germans for at least a year, or maybe a year and a half, or something like that. Maybe just stall them, because while it's cool and it has a lot of potential, this time investment that it requires and the fact that it moves up the war to such an earlier date could really backfire quite a bit. There we go, 1937 finally doing the strengthening the Little Entente. Now, this is an interesting one, right? Because if you take a look at the focus tree path right there, it only takes one focus to do, go with Britain. Or you can just bypass that focus if you basically just, join the Allies and you don't really have to do a focus at all. It only takes 3 focuses to get Italy on side. However, it takes 4 focuses. Yeah, 4 focuses to do the Little Entente and to actually boost them at least a little bit militarily. And I think that's kind of strange, isn't it? Like just from like initial reactions to the focus tree path without actually like playing through with it or anything like that. Isn't it a bit strange that to do basically a coalition of 3 minor factions or like middle powers, I suppose, in the Balkans and Central Europe, and to actually give them some sort of fighting capability? It takes 4 focuses as opposed to 1 to you basically have a grand alliance with one of the biggest factions in the entire game, or 3 focuses to basically unite with an arch rival of France during this time period. It's a bit strange, isn't it? Because like the Little Entente was a thing in theory already, so wouldn't it just require like 2 focuses? Would you really have to persuade them that much to actually join you? It's a bit strange from that perspective when it comes to the time investment, because it's a lot of time for France, and you don't necessarily have a lot of time when you're playing France. Which is why I'm kind of worried here. I'm actually kind of worried about this stuff, this Entente. If it's actually gonna, pull its own weight when it comes to this time investment being sort of murky, and also the fact that Yugoslavia requires a bit of persuading because they're non-aligned. At least what they used to do. I don't know. I guess I'll just do it because I'm kind of worried about this whole thing. Because if Yugoslavia doesn't join, that means we're kind of screwed, aren't we? We might as well just, join up with Britain and forget about this whole Little Entente thing. Also, another thing is that to join up with Britain and to do the, to get rid of full employment, which is like getting the full power out of the Little Entente, it requires an additional 2 focuses. And that's kind of, I don't know. It's a bit... Because Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia, if you actually defend Czechoslovakia, they're gonna end up in, you're just gonna end up in an alliance anyway, and if you've joined the Allies previously, they're just gonna end up joining the Allies anyway. And the Yugoslavians, while they join the Axis 50-50, 50% of time they join the Axis, 50% of time they don't, they usually, if the Germans attack them, they're just gonna end up in the Allies anyway. And the only real power that we're stealing from the Germans is the Romanians. And the Romanians Romanians usually, by the time they join the Axis, you know, they've lost basically all of Transylvania, and they're sort of a shadow of their former self at the beginning of the game. And so, you know, it's not like we're getting quite a lot of power here, so the time investment might be a bit stupid, actually. Like 4 focuses just to get a bunch of middle powers on side. Like, I don't know, maybe it's gonna blow me away because, you know, it's sort of a fan favorite, it's the fan favorite alternate pick for France just doing its own thing, right? And previously, you know, before La Résistance was sort of actually quite powerful, at least theoretically. It gave you a big boost to your stability and war support. It doesn't really do that anymore. And so I'm really kind of worried here. Like, is this actually a good idea? Like, is this really going to be, you know, so much better than the Strazer front, which only gives you the Italians, and 3 focuses, by the way. But well, we'll have to see. I don't know. And so far, just theory crafting it, it seems kind of bad, doesn't it? It seems it's kind of shit. But okay, here we go. Hungary demands the right to rearm. We're actually gonna block them, I think, because if Hungary rearms and joins the Axis, that's an additional front for the Little Entente to have to take on. So we're gonna block them, even if they go further, which I think they do. I think they ask for like support, diplomatic support for either Transylvania or the right to rearm or everything like that. I think, yeah, we're just gonna block them, and maybe that's one strength of the Little Entente, that you actually, yeah, there we go, diplomatic support, and no, we're actually just going to completely block everything that Hungary does, and we're permanently going to keep them out of the Axis hand, which actually this could potentially be actually really powerful, because now the Little Entente only has to worry about, well, basically Germany and Italy. And, well, that's actually really powerful, because Hungary is permanently just going to do nothing. They're just going to stay neutral, right? Unless, I don't know, we invade them, I suppose, unless Romania decides that it's going to be a great idea to invade Hungary. Actually, it might be a good idea to invade Hungary just to unite, sort of have a united front against the Germans and Italians. But, you know, that could be a good focus, you know, instead of like giving them 2 military factories. But hey, so yeah, maybe there's actually a chance. You know, I'm starting to regain hope here. Maybe if Hungary really stays out of the Axis, the Little Entente could actually do it, because Romania isn't directly threatened by anyone. So if Romania sends roughly like 50% of their divisions or 40% of their divisions to Czechoslovakia and 60 to Yugoslavia, we could actually do this. Because seriously, actually do this, because I don't think the Hungarians, if we block them, the AI shouldn't really do anything about it. The AI basically is just like, okay, well, I guess that's it. You know, as a player, you obviously have the option to just, you know, go to war. But even as a player, you wouldn't really want to go to war against, you know, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Romania, because you get crushed, because you still have all your debuffs. Right, and it's like 1938, so you really haven't had any time to build up. So, yeah, actually denying the Axis Hungary could be the big turning point here, instead of like giving them 2 military factories, obviously. Denying Hungary, actually, yeah, this could be it. This actually could be it. Well, I don't know. The Germans are gonna demand the Sudetenland quite soon, so let's hope I'm right. Let's hope this is the big turning point. Okay, so any minute now, the Germans should be basically demanding the Sudetenland, and, well, I just started doing my, military focuses, so this could be quite bad, but it also could be quite good. We'll see how things go, but, oh, there we go, the Munich Conference. Well, we'll, also Hungary renounces Treaty of Trianon. Now, we're gonna take a big stability and war support hit, but I think we're gonna pressure them to stand down, because we decided to basically, you know, not support anything Hungary does, and there we go, Hungary backs down, thankfully. The Munich Conference, wait, what? So we still have to pay a whole bunch of political power if we want to support someone we've just invested 6 focuses in actually supporting. Yeah, I can see how that's a bit annoying. I thought it would work sort of like when Britain does, you know, anti-appeasement, As in, we don't get any, negative stuff from actually supporting Czechoslovakia? This is a bit strange. Okay, so you invest 6 focuses, you invest an entire year into actually supporting them. You move up the war by 1 year, meaning you're effectively just really short-circuiting everything that France needs, which is a lot of time, and you still have to pay a lot of political power for it. Okay. Well, might as well get those fortifications ready, I suppose, because, hey, yeah, we haven't even completed offensive strategy. Yeah, okay. Well, here we go. Here we go. Might as well attack. Might as well attack. It's going to be quite a wild ride, and we aren't pushing at all because our military is still terrible. But hey, the Yugoslavians are actually doing something. So let's keep on attacking. We managed to push 1 tile into Germany. Wow, what a great advance. What a great advance. But oh, actually, some green. This could actually work out nicely. Yugoslavians are also attacking, so hey, this might actually turn out to be quite a bit better than actually the Italians, right? Because oh no, Croatia! I completely forgot about Croatia. Why is that a thing? Why is that a thing? Well, I suppose if we were to give up Czechoslovakia, the Yugoslavians would have enough time to actually deal with Croatia, right? Creating their the puppet of Croatia, but yeah, pushing isn't really getting us anywhere. We're just losing quite a lot of equipment and manpower by doing that. And Croatia, wow, Romania really supporting your friend over there. Wow, great stuff, Romania. Great stuff. Truly a successor to the Roman Empire. Truly, the AI knows what it's doing, standing and doing nothing. Not even supporting the Czechoslovakians. Nothing at all. The Czechoslovakians are defending. They're attacking. The Yugoslavians were attacking, but yeah, the greatest of the 3 powers, right? Romania, who has the most industry, they have potentially the biggest military, they have the best resources, they have a lot of oil, right? Their army is doing nothing. They're defending against Hungary, and Hungary is never going to attack them because we denied everything that Hungary wanted, and they backed down. Wow. Great AI. Truly great AI. But maybe if you attack a bit more, maybe we'll punch through. Maybe we'll, be in Berlin by, I don't know. Well, it's October, so maybe not by Christmas, but at some random point it will maybe get to Berlin before 1945, and that would be swell. Now, the issue is that the Italians are going to be joining the war quite soon, and it's not like we're already really prepared for anything like that, so... But we still have a few months, maybe, a couple of weeks, I suppose. I think they don't necessarily join the Germans unless they've managed to actually capitulate someone. Specifically, I don't think they join until the German AI is very close to France, to Paris, I mean. So, I don't know, we'll have to see. But I think if... I don't know. I better get the navy ready though, because well, yeah, the Italian navy is going to be quite a bit of a problem until the British actually manage to during the war. But if you manage to starve the Germans just a little bit, that can actually work out. I don't know. The Germans obviously have no access to oil yet, at least not any very reliable source of oil until they manage to get to Romania. Hopefully they don't manage to get to Romania. But, well, Yugoslavia doesn't look like it's going to hold all that much longer, so continue to push. I don't know, is there anything else we could really do? Oh no, the Czechoslovakians are crumbling. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, the one ally, the one member of the Little Entente I really wanted to hold on. Czechoslovakia with its great fortification line. That's the one member I really wanted to hold on because they have a lot of industry. And they have a very good line, a very good defensive line. Well, oh, okay. So, this is going terribly. Might I remind you that it takes 3 focuses to get Italy on side, and Italy attacks relentlessly, and they have a great defensive line. And so, I'm just saying that the Little Entente isn't really performing all that well as opposed to the Stresa front. So, well, maybe we'll get, I don't know, the Netherlands and Belgium on side. But, well, might as well just retreat back to the Maginot Line, because I don't think we're gonna be doing anything there. If anything, we're actually, once Czechoslovakia falls, we're just gonna get pushed back anyway, so might as well just abandon that position sort of preemptively, because, well, we still haven't completed there we go, we have completed defensive stratagem, so okay, but we still haven't completed any of our military stuff yet, so, well, there we go. It's, well, hopefully it lasts, and hopefully I'll manage to defend, and hopefully the little Entente actually manages to keep it together a bit. 2 months later. So that was a lie. That was a big ol' lie. Romania is done. Yugoslavia is done. We're still pushing in Africa. But my main issue is that, right, so we invested 6 focuses into the Little Entente. 6 focuses. And they lasted 2 months? Okay. 2 months. That's not even one 70-day focus, basically. Romania is done. Yugoslavia is done. Czechoslovakia is long gone. The Italians are in the war. We are defending on all fronts. We're pushing in Africa, barely. So, okay. But that just means that we're basically playing a standard France game, as if we basically just joined the Allies. We actually wouldn't be even at war at this point. We'd still be building up our industry, building up our armed forces, getting ready to fight the Germans, and still we would have a lot of time to actually prepare. And yeah, the Italians are pushing, because the Italians have a decent military force, and their AI is actually focused on attacking. They have that AI modifier that makes them attack quite a bit, so yeah, the Little Entente, well, failed experiment, basically. Completely terrible, as opposed to the Stresa front. The Italians lasted until the end of the war. They were one of the main contributing factors in the Stresa front, why we were able to defend against the Germans so well, and why we were able to attack the Germans much sooner than regularly, because they managed to hold. They managed to hold the Alpine line. They managed to defend. And we didn't have to bother about Africa. We didn't have to bother about the Italian and French line, basically, their borders at all. But now, well, look at the situation now. So, okay, I'm gonna play until the Germans are done, but just so you know, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. The Little Entente lasted, well, Czechoslovakia capitulated basically by Christmas. And the Romanians are done, the Yugoslavians are done, they lasted 2 months, and yeah, so is it worth it? So that's 6 focuses, 5 or 6 focuses, roughly a year of investment, year of time investment, right? In addition, yeah, basically a year of time investment, because you move up the war by 1 year, so that's 5 or 6 focuses. In addition, you have to do four focuses to get the Little Entente, which is basically all together. So that's, yeah, it's like 10 focuses. It takes only 1 focus to go with Britain, and we're basically just playing a regular France game where we're defending on all fronts anyway. So what exactly is different? So you're telling me, so we invested roughly, yeah, basically it's like 10 focuses, basically. And we're in the same position we would be in anyway. So what exactly is the difference? Well, I suppose we get to play around with the, with like the governments in exile. We get to do that. We get to, basically, say that we are leading a grand faction, and that unfortunately our brave allies were bested by the German foes, and even though we tried to support them, the Germans are just too powerful. But do not fear, for we are supporting their governments in exile. And yeah, so we get to walk away with the moral victory. Okay. But because we haven't actually completed any of our military stuff, because I was so focused on, the Little Entente, yeah, it's gonna be quite a while before we manage to liberate them. I suspect like 1941, maybe? Because, well, we have to actually defend first, and then actually build up our military for any sort of offensive capabilities, because my army is purely defensive at this point. And yeah, and Germany gets to take advantage of all that oil, all those military factories, and the best thing we can hope for is a bunch of exiled generals. Wow. Great stuff. Great stuff. Oh, look at that! Oh my goodness. Did you see that? Yeah, Yugoslavia just rose up. Yugoslavia is just... Wow, they actually managed to revolt. Now that's amazing. Now that actually is something that I didn't account for too much. Well, for the last 1 year, I've just been defending. Didn't really think about this, but yeah, especially because Croatia took over Yugoslavia, they must have quite a lot of resistance in those territories, and I've been just sort of casually boosting it by doing the governments in exile stuff. But well, they aren't doing that much. But I guess the Chetniks really rose up this time, and well, hopefully this happens more often, but I think the Germans actually have some really good divisions against this, but because this happened to the Croatians, actually maybe there's hope that the entirety of the Little Entente rises up, and there we go, Yugoslavia once again defeated. But this is actually an interesting precedent, because if this happens in Romania and Czechoslovakia, this actually could be quite powerful, because, well, maybe... Well, at least I haven't really noticed the, for example, the British AI or the United Kingdom AI really do anything like this. If you're playing as France and the Allies, they don't necessarily try to do anything with the governments in exile at all. They get a bunch of divisions from them, but other than that, they don't necessarily do that much. And so this actually could be the one saving factor for France and the Little Entente, is that even if the Little Entente capitulates within 2 months, after you've invested countless focuses and moved up the entire, war 1 year earlier, which essentially, yeah, that's not what France wants, but you get to micromanage and really focus on that governments in exile stuff when it comes to the resistance and when it comes to like the partisan movements and everything like that. Maybe that's the one saving grace that you can do, is that after the Little Entente has fallen, which is a foregone conclusion, that you can really sort of force the Germans to dedicate a lot of divisions towards having to suppress those regions. That's really depressing if you say about that, if you say something like that about, your alliance. Because you're sort of expecting them to fall, and while they do have a lot of resistance in those territories, it's, well, that's just, okay. Well, but Yugoslavians definitely proved me wrong in that case, because they just rose up, so I suppose that does mean that it's semi-working. It is kind of working, so, hopefully, if we manage to keep the resistance levels at like 50 to 60%, they don't have to rise up, but at that point... the Germans and the Italians and even Croatians, obviously, as we could see, they have to keep a lot of divisions, and we're tying down a lot of manpower, a lot of industrial power, and we're keeping that industrial power out of the hands of the Germans. But that industrial power would have been better if it was in the hands of our allies, if they managed to last longer than 2 months. So it's kind of a mixed bag, I suppose. Okay, so 2 years after the fall of the Little Entente, I finally managed to get up some military power, some military factories, anything like that, because I had to focus so much on actually creating the Little Entente. I never managed to gain a lot of military factories, and finally we were able to liberate Europe after 2 years after the French Entente fell, and that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun. The Americans are in the war. They've been in the war for like half a year now. And so, who knows if this is actually France liberating Europe, or if this is just the Americans liberating Europe with some French help. Using France as just a jumping off point into Europe, and in the end, no one apart from the Yugoslavians in that one time actually rose up. We managed to keep their resistance levels quite high, but other than that, the Little Entente, not the best luck. Not the best luck. This is sort of a shorter video compared to the Straser Front one, but there's just nothing going on. It's just a very standard France game. After the Little Entente fell, I just sat here. Sat here defending the line against the relentless Italian attacks. You know, just as they attacked the Germans last time, they now attacked me. And that's the one big difference. If you're actually going to do, you know, as France, after, you know, playing this, I think it's safe to say, if you're going to play as France, and you want to play as democratic France, and you want to play ahistorical, just do the Straits of France. Just do the Straits of France. There's just nothing to the Little Entente. They fell after 2 months. You invest in them 6, well, was it like 4 focuses? 4 focuses, 5 focuses if you actually want to even lend-lease them stuff. And, you know, give them additional weapons or everything like that. It's 5 focuses roughly a year. And then you move up the entire war by 1 year, which is an additional 5 focuses. At 10 focuses lost. Meanwhile, to get the Italians on side who don't actually capitulate after 2 months and who fight like lions against the Germans, continuously attacking, tying down their troops. In the last video about the Straits of France, you saw the Germans had the additional support of the Bohemian Empire and fascist Denmark and fascist Norway. And against all of that, the Italians were able to just hold, and they actually pushed the Germans here and there. Whereas the Little Entente, which took us, you know, which is a negative, which is basically a net loss of 2 years worth of focuses to France. They fell after 2 months, yeah. 2 months. That's terrible. That is terrible. They needed to last at least 1 year to be sort of worth it, at least, you know, just at least tie down the Germans. Sometimes the Germans can enter into a civil war if the Little or if Czechoslovakia lasts quite a bit of a, you know, long time. But for some reason, like, even though I was attacking, like, I could just, there isn't enough time for France to really scramble all the necessary focuses together to actually have a decent army. So I was attacking for what it was worth, but yeah, Czechoslovakia just capitulated. Croatia popped out of Yugoslavia, that completely collapsed. Romania didn't do anything. That's yeah, big old disappointment. It's not Little Entente, it's a big disappointment, you know. I called in the last video the oh, we can liberate Luxembourg. Oh yeah, Luxembourg joined our alliance. The Great Luxembourg. Yeah. Little Entente indeed, a big old disappointment. I called the alliance between France and Italy, you know, the alliance of disappointment. Well, no, that was actually a great alliance. The Straits of France is a great alliance. The Little Entente is a disappointment. They did nothing except rise up that one time in Yugoslavia. Wow, great success there. And that's all they did. That's all they did, and we had to wait for the Americans and for me to actually scramble something together by 1941. By 1941 to actually be able to liberate at least the Low Countries and to actually push into Germany safely without, you know, being afraid of just being completely crushed. But hey, that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. And so this experiment, I have to declare that the Little Entente, of course, this is nothing. It's just strange that you invest so much time into focus through path, right? Like the Little Entente, just this alliance of 3 countries that has the potential to be really powerful, right? And on paper, it looks really powerful. It sounds kind of cool, right? Like this, you know, Balkan and Central European alliance that's going to essentially represent a big power if united. Like, united, they're actually the equivalent roughly of Italy, but because the AI is trash, and it takes such a long time to just do it, all the focuses, it's unreasonable. It's unreasonable because the alliance with Britain is 1 focus and you can bypass it by joining the allies manually. The alliance with Italy, 3 focuses, and with the Straits of France focus, you additionally gain the support or the guarantee of independence potentially by the Soviet Union, which, you know, that's so powerful. I'm sort of surprised they didn't actually relegate that one to the Little Entente as well, because that would have been actually interesting, right? Maybe mitigate sort of the exchange of Bessarabia between Romania and the Soviet Union in turn for the guarantee by the Soviet Union. That could have been an interesting mechanic, right? But no, instead nothing. Instead they capitulate after 2 months. That's great investment, guys, really. why bother with any military doctrines or anything like that? You can just do the little Entente and watch your allies capitulate after 2 months. This must really be terrible if you set it. If you set the AI France to actually do something like this, they must capitulate after. Like even France must capitulate after just in the third month, basically. That's a recipe for disaster, basically. If it's this imbalanced, it really makes you wonder what the developers big lag here, big lag, and nothing happened. Wow, but it really makes you wonder what the developers are exactly thinking when making this. It takes basically like 2 years essentially to basically do everything that you need to do. Well, 1 year to do everything you need to do for the little Entente, and then you lose 1 year basically that France needs to build up. And yeah, no payoff at all, no payoff at all. And all the military factories that you give to them, they just lose immediately. I think you actually get refunded, after Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Romania, all of them fall. I think all of those military factories actually get refunded to you, which is interesting. That's an interesting mechanic, but that the fact that mechanics exists means that they sort of expected the Little Entente to just completely collapse, and that's not exactly fun, is it? Oh no, don't tell me. Don't tell me the Soviets declared one. Yes, they declared on Turkey, and they're still guaranteed by Romania. Yes. Oh no, no. This is terrible. This is just terrible. This is like pitiful, right? As if you needed more evidence that the Little Entente is complete garbage. Not only do you have to invest like 6 focuses into actually getting them on their feet, not only do you need to actually support them militarily in like basically everything they do, otherwise they just collapse. And even then they collapse after 2 months. But after 3 years of being capitulated just completely, they drag you into a war against the USSR, because the USSR does the Strike South doctrine if the French do the Little Entente, which actually makes sense, right? Because the Franco-Soviet alliance was actually a thing during this period of time. So if the French actually built a power block in Eastern Europe and the Balkans, it's more likely that the Soviet Union would have respected that alliance and would have gone, for the South instead. But because the South is guaranteed by Romania, they end up with war with the Little Entente anyway. This is this is actually like mind-boggling. Like, how terrible is this alliance? How terrible is this focus tree path? Like, the worst the Italians did was just declare war on the Greeks, and then the Greeks just joined the Axis, and then you just stumped the Greeks as well. But no. Romania decided to just drag you into war against the Soviets just for the hell of it, right? And, wow, you get to make Turkey be an ally. No, they're not going to join the war. Okay, so realistically, what would have happened if, the government in exile sort of wanted to drag its host country into a war against the USSR? What would have happened was that the French would have entered the room of the Romanian government in exile and told them, revoke that guarantee, or we're just handing you to the Germans and or the Soviets, alternatively. Pick your choice. And that would have been that. But there is obviously no such mechanic in the game, and so we're now at war with the Soviet Union as well. Yeah, right. No, I'm just done. Like, this is terrible. This focus tree path is terrible. It's a complete failure. Never do this. Never do this. The Streza front is roughly 100 times more powerful, and there's absolutely no reason as to why you wouldn't want to do the Streza front instead of a Little Entente. It's much more quicker, it's much more powerful, and it doesn't end up resulting in you being at war with the Soviet Union as well as Germany. And the Italians don't capitulate after 2 months of fighting. And yeah, that's basically it. So thanks, Kings, for watching another video by Augustus Maximus. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you really enjoyed, please leave a like and look out for more videos on the channel. Yeah, on the Augustus Maximus channel. I'm sorry, but this video is yeah, it's taken a toll on me. Yeah, so thanks for watching and see you next time.